That's not good. Tim is stuck there now. You're right. Oh, you're back. You're back.
我现在在参加另外一个会议。哎，好，谢谢。而且他那个已经满了，我看了一下。好，谢谢啊。好，拜拜。
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Patrick. How are you, mate?
You're good, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah, hanging in there. 3 weeks. 3 weeks to go, mate. 3 weeks to go.
Yeah.
Hey,
Slow
Patty.
3 weeks.
Do some compromise as well, because it's really hard to define.
Yeah.
If it's,
Guys, just as well, watch your background noise as well while we're ripping through some stuff. So
How are you, Sally?
good, mate. What's going on?
No, just too much at the moment.
Too much.
No
Where's your
complaint.
beanie, Pat? I heard you've been a beanie, little fingerless gloves, your wife said the other day, trying to keep warm.
These things?
Pat.
Yeah. I got one of those aluminium keyboards, for the Apple mouse, and it's bloody cold.
Yeah.
You're not sitting there with a blankie on, Pat, are you?
No, just got my Ugg boots on though.
Pat, I didn't have you down for one of those keyboards. Only yuppies use those keyboards, mate. I hadn't got you for one of those. Thought you were more old school, mate.
No, it's 21st century.
Yuppies. Who uses the word yuppies anymore?
You haven't heard that word, no? No. That was an 80s.
Not since 1987.
That was the 80s word in London, John.
Yeah, it was an 80s word here too. It wasn't 2020.
Oh, well, you guys should copy everything here from Europe, don't you? How we going, Nads? What are we looking like numbers, boys? Coming in?
We're just up to 82 and there's still more coming. So
Okay, we'll give the guys a couple of minutes. So,
Cam Roebuck, how are you, mate? Can you hear me, mate?
Someone mute John, please.
He's muted. He's gone.
Muted or muted?
I think both. Combination of.
Early start
It's a
down there.
reunion in here, isn't it?
please,
Faces, eh?
can I ask? Please don't abuse any of our potential guys on the call. Thanks.
Look at all these handsome faces.
Oh,
You've always had good taste, Beck.
Yeah.
nice coffee cup, gee.
You know that?
Just in case,
Wine.
if anyone
Wine,
gets,
Patty, not coffee.
Says
if anyone gets confused in Beck's house as to who owns that mug, Beck likes it. Make sure her name's all over it.
Looks like a vase.
Mm.
On the computer yet.
Now, you tell me when we've got 100 plus, and then we might start.
we're at 91 at the minute.
We won't keep these beautiful people waiting any longer than they have to.
Vince Carnival, how are you, mate?
I'm still learning English, Johnny. I'm good, mate. Busier than a one-legged tap dancer, but
Yeah, I bet. Where are you, mate? Are you in Sydney?
yeah, Sydney-based. Focusing on Bankstown at the moment, which has over 300 tenancies and lots of meetings, lots of action.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Have you caught up? Have you seen Vaughan lately?
Haven't seen Vaughan for a while. Overdue, but
He's
yeah.
just got out of the hospital again. They just taken all the pins out because he had once that was pinching his sciatic nerve, almost severed it. So yeah, so he had to get all that out. So that's good. But he's back on track, hobbling around Parramatta Westfield at the moment.
Is he?
Yeah.
I'll give him a buzz. Long overdue.
How are we looking, Nadine?
We're at 96. Will that do?
Yeah, let's go.
Add the GST and we're at 100.
Add the gin and tonic and we're good to go. Okay, great. Okay, good.
Just one moment. I'm just going to share my screen. Just bear with me just one sec. Sorry.
No, you're all good. You're all good. I'm surprised we haven't had more IT issues up to now, Nadine. There we go. And it looks like we won't need it this morning. Okay, great.
I'm still just admitting people, so just
Can you do that in the background if I just start talking? Or
Yep,
you
definitely.
okay with that?
Yep,
Great.
that's
Okay.
all good.
Okay. Good. Guys, thanks for joining the call again. It's great to see so many people return from the first one. It's really good to hear that people are very busy and they've got a lot on their plate. So that's a good sign. So look, just for people that maybe didn't get to the first one or didn't see the first one, obviously the idea and the format around this has been to, for BDC to just introduce some existing retail clients and potentially some new clients that have come on, and we've had some good activity.
Hey guys, how you going? Yeah, good mate.
Guys, just watch your mute. Let's see if you're talking in the background.
We've had some great interest, and we've had some good clients come on board literally in the last kind of 6, 8, 12 weeks. So we wanted to make sure that we were keeping everybody up to date with that. And we also felt it was important, just from an industry point of view, that we obviously, we want to see that we want to be seen to take the lead in this. And then listen to the feedback from the first blast. I think everybody was really happy with how it went, and the feedback was fantastic. So we're going to follow the same format today. We're going to introduce a couple of new clients, and please, as we go through it, happy to take questions, or if you want to use the chat function, or you want to go back directly to the client manager, whatever way you're comfortable in doing it, we're happy to do it that way. So it is a relaxed environment, please. So please feel free to put as much input in as you'd like. We will send a presentation out, because as I mentioned in the invite, we were due to have Tony from GapMaps on this morning, and unfortunately Tony hasn't been able to make it, but with very short notice, the CEO from GapMaps, Tim Shaw, has been kind enough to step into Tony's shoes. So he'll give us a little bit of insight into how they're seeing things move, which will be interesting, I think, for us all. And then going forward, I think the last point I mentioned on the first call was that it'd be great to maybe try and do some one-on-one individual catch-ups with you guys. And we've actually started that. That's been a really interesting and a really good exercise, I think, for both parties. And a big thank you to Oscar and his team at Charlotte Hall. They were the first guys on board. And there's stuff locked in, I think, now with Rep Pro and Stockland and potentially Westfield. So I think anyone else that would like to get involved in that, please just feel free to reach out to me. And again, we'll follow a similar format, but look at what availability you've got within the assets, and try and align it to what clients we've got that are active. And we'll just we'll work towards the one goal of doing as many deals as we can. Now, look, just before I pass across to Tim, just to give you a little bit of feedback from the people we introduced on the first call. Look, it's been good. We've certainly got plenty of deals done, which is great. I think there's still some in the pipeline that potentially will get done. The second lockdown for some of those guys that were presented on the first call probably didn't help. And then maybe with a shadow of potentially New South Wales having a second lockdown, probably whetted the appetite for one or two of them. But I think the probably standout for us and for you guys was probably being Kingsman Hair. We probably did about 5 or 6, probably even close to 7 deals just with that one business alone. So that's been a bit of a good news story. So without further ado, I'll pass you across to Tim Shaw. And as I said, please, plenty of questions, either through the chat, or if you want to ask Tim just individually, just please reach out, and Naz will make sure you're off mute and you can ask a question. So Tim, I'll pass across to you.
Great, thanks Keith, and good morning everybody. And firstly, apologies from Tony Damasi, who has been required to attend be in VCAT for an extra day today. I think right now he's just starting his cross-examination, so I'm sure I know where he'd prefer to be. So firstly, just a tiny bit about GapMaps. We are a location intelligence consultancy. We work with a large range of leading retail brands in the sort of the Australia Pacific area and Middle East. But Tony Damasi is leading our advisory services, and that is particularly tailored towards shopping centre landlords, centre managers and investors. And so Tony's prepared the large part of this slide pack. So Nads, if you could just flick over to the next slide, please. There are 2 topics that I wanted to cover off this morning. The first is sort of a big picture look at retail expenditure in Australia, and it won't dwell too much on COVID because I think we're all we're a bit, wouldn't say we're over it, but I think we've heard a lot about it. But putting, I guess, big picture context around what's been happening over the last 12 months. And then we'll also talk a little bit about some longer term structural issues with shopping centre assets and how they've been evolving over the last 10 years. Thanks again, Nads. On to the next slide, please. So firstly, if we look at sort of, the big picture and look at retail spend, and this is data for the year ending 30 June. And what's really interesting here, I think, is that total retail spend in Australia is actually up. It's up by, I think it's about little over 3%, so a little over $10 billion up this year compared to last year in the year ending June 30. But as you can see in the details to the left there, there's winners and losers in this story. And if you could just jump to the next slide, Nads. The winners specifically, and this won't come as a surprise to many of you, but the big winners over this 12-month period have been the food stores and especially supermarkets, which are up by 7%. Household goods up by 7%, pharmacy, florist, news agencies, and some of those other smaller retailers also up significantly. But contrasting that, there have also been some big losers, and I guess this is what we hear a lot about in the popular media. So, cafe, restaurants, takeaway food go down by 8.6%, and clothing and footwear also down significantly. Department stores kind of break even, so no big changes there. Now, it's easy to look at these in isolation, but interestingly, when we look at the losers, particularly clothing and footwear, and also the discount department stores, to some extent, this is a continuation of a trend that has been evident over quite a number of years. It certainly accelerated that trend, but it is really a continuation of an existing trend, and that's something we'll come back to in this pack in a little while. So we can just jump to the next slide as well, Nads, and we'll just stick on this one pretty quickly. We can see there across retail spend state by state that it's a pretty consistent story across the state for the year ended June 30 with some reasonable uplifts all the way through the country. And you will get a copy of this slide pack as well. So we can just jump to the next slide, Nads. Interestingly, even Victoria, up 2.3%. And I guess, of course, the interesting question is, but that's end of June. What's happening since then? And I guess our expectation is that the trends that have been evident are likely to continue. Albeit that the cafe and restaurant sector has been hit extraordinarily hard. Don't forget that only makes up about 14% of total retail spend in Australia. So, as an overall contributor to what's happening at a total retail level, it's not having a major impact on total spend even in Victoria at the moment. So that trend growth, by the end of next year, it's probably going to be there or thereabouts once again at that total retail level. If you can move one more slide, please, Nads. At GapMaps, we track visitation to, at the moment, it's about 340 shopping centres across Australia using mobile device data. And it's interesting to see how mobile device data and that those visitation patterns that we're evidencing are really mirroring what we see in the retail spend data. So you can see there has been there is good recovery across all centre categories as we're sort of pushing through, certainly towards the end of June where we've got to. And this, we've got some new data that's going to come out in the next couple of weeks that has a more current perspective. And of course, if we pull Victoria out of this, it's clearly going to be a very different story in Victoria. But that trend movement is always interesting to see. And I guess the resilience of Australian retail is evident in that data as well. Nads, if we could just move on one more, please. When we talked about the winners and losers, I guess we can begin to see this when we make comparisons between retail turnover in 2000 versus retail turnover in 2020. Here's this point about what we saw with particularly clothing and footwear and department stores, and they've been hit relatively hard this year. But it is a continuation of a longer story. So for example, if we look there at the clothing and footwear sector, for example, 8.7% of spend in 2000, down to 7.1% in 2020. Department stores down from 9.7% in 2020, down to 5.6% of total retail this year. Compare that though to food retail generally, and that's increased from 38% of spend to 42% of spend. So it is very much, again, this sort of, in many instances, a continuation of a longer term trend that we've seen that has accelerated. Pulling out, of course, cafes and restaurants. So we've just got to keep pulling out cafes and restaurants that have been absolutely just slaughtered, to use a Tony DiMasi term, through this period. Thanks, Mads. If we could jump one more. Where, of course, this gets really interesting in a shopping centre context is when we look at the percentage of floor space in sort of your typical regional shopping centre versus the spend that we see in 2020. And this is where this disparity starts to emerge. So we've got 23% of floor space being dedicated to department stores and 21% to discount department stores, and it's 13% to specialist apparel and so forth. So you can see large percentages of retail floor space are being dedicated to those sectors that are seeing decreases in total spend. And of course, there's nothing new in that. And landlords have been working very hard, and shopping centre asset owners have been working very hard over this period to try and address that and to reposition shopping centres to have a stronger focus on fresh food and casual dining and entertainment precincts and those sorts of new and emerging retailing activities. But the challenge is, of course, that it's hard to find a personal services provider, whether it's a nail salon or a massage shop or a leisure and entertainment precinct, that are paying the sort of rents that the specialist apparel retailers have been paying in the past. So repositioning these assets to make them more contemporary in terms of aligning with the retail spend that we see in Australia is really quite challenging. And indeed, that continues to be, of course, one of the greatest challenges facing that sector at the moment. So if we now think about just some of the major takeouts from this and what we can expect from here, well, firstly, I think underlying retail expenditure, which is the major driver, of course, of the retail sector, remains sound. But there are winners and losers. Certainly, the standout performers, the supermarkets are the obvious ones, but there are many others, whether it's JB Hi-Fi or Officeworks or Bunnings and others. Kmart has also performed well, but there have been these very strong winners, but there also have been, regrettably, there've been some big losers, and none more so than the cafe and restaurant sector. But we do anticipate that will recover quite quickly. There will be churn, of course, because some of those businesses haven't had the ability to, the depth in their pockets to actually trade through these periods. So there will be churn, but no doubt that the expenditure will come back into those sectors as the restrictions through COVID are lifted. And then finally, there in terms of online sales, they have jumped ahead of where they had been, but again, a continuation of that trend that we've seen for some time. Interestingly, Quantium have estimated that the online sales have virtually doubled during this period. So that's it's been a significant jump ahead of where it otherwise would have been, and interesting to see where that bounces or whether it comes back and to what extent it comes back from there. And finally, Nads, just onto the last slide. I guess the main challenge now will be to see how, in a bigger picture sense, is really to see how the shopping centres continue to reposition themselves for the spending patterns that we're seeing and the spending priorities that we're seeing in 2020. which isn't a new story, but I think what's happened through this last 12 months has just accelerated some of those shifts that we were seeing. And so ever more so, it's putting more and more pressure onto the large asset owners to reposition those assets so that they fit that sort of contemporary Australian consumer. So that's really it for that presentation. If you've got any questions, please, happy to take any questions now, but also send myself an email or through to Keith or Tony Newell, who's also part of our team. And we can also forward those questions on to Tony DeMasi as well, whose contact details were overlooked on this slide. But if you've got any questions, please send them through now or to one of those contact points would be great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Guys, I'd love to see if we've got any questions, because we have kind of just maybe given Tim, an extra few minutes if you had any. Certainly for me, it's some interesting reading there, and some key words. Resilience is a big one that jumps out for me. I'm always the optimist, and I think retailers in generally are very a resilient bunch. So to think that the underlying economy looks sound, I think is also a big plus for us, and in recovery. And recovering quickly, I think in certain states where maybe we're seeing that already in WA and Queensland, I think again it's just encouraging for the industry. So has anybody got anything for me, or shall we move on? Just regarding Tony, Tony did mention to me actually that he would offer to maybe sit in potentially on some of our one-on-ones with the landlords as well. So that might be a good opportunity for the guys to maybe dig into this presentation in a little bit more detail. So maybe that's when we do that.
Can I just ask for the people that are looking after shopping centres, are those numbers sort of surprising? Because obviously, if there's a doubling growth in online, then the actual brick and mortar is going to probably take a hit if it's 3 or 4% up. So, you guys seeing all that?
Being completed at various stages.
Was that so? Sorry, someone.
No, that might have been just someone on the phone in the background, John.
Holding the kids.
Yeah, look, I think, John, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Certainly, we discussed that even this morning, didn't we, with particular categories with that online sales and whether that's, makes a retailer question the business model. Absolutely, I'm sure that's one part of their strategy going forward that might improve or increase. But certainly, I think also the bricks and mortar side of it, it's not a strategy with one or the other. It needs to probably be a real, platform with both working alongside each other. But yeah, certainly interesting to see some of the categories in particular. And John, I think one other point too is, and I don't know how, Tim, you can back this comment up, but certainly, there's been some talk around maybe the JobKeeper having an effect on some of that spending online with some of these apparel and younger fashion guys, that, some of these kids are receiving some big money respective to what they would have been ordinarily earning. And that's kind of jumped into the spend, which is probably not exactly an accurate picture of what's going on.
Yeah, Keith, and I think the other point I'd make there is that if you look at the Quantium data, and they track where that online retail spend goes, and I'm talking specifically now around apparel, and 70% of the online retail spend is heading towards heads back into bricks and mortar Australian retailers. So you've got to be a little bit careful when you look at online spend, because it's not necessarily at the expense of some of these retailers. A good percentage of it is still heading back into those retailers, but through a different channel. So there's that balance to take into account there. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. All right, guys. Well, it seems like you're all quiet this morning. So maybe what we'll do is we'll get into this in more detail when we get through the one-on-ones. So Tim, listen, again, thanks for the short notes and jumping in. I really appreciate it. So Nadine, I might get you to move on, and we'll start with Cameron on House of Golf.
Thanks, Keith. Morning, guys. Good to be back talking about something other than COVID rent relief, which is getting a bit boring, I imagine, for everyone. So the first retail that I've got to talk about is the House of Golf. So they are a category that's seen a bit of a kick with COVID, funnily enough, and their sales are tracking very positively across both online, where it needs to be, and also in store. But they're out there looking for 1,200 square metres, looking at sort of decent traffic areas. They're a bit destinational, so not necessarily main runs, but want to be visible. They've got 8 current sites, really eastern seaboard. Need to have after hours access because their model does include X-Golf. So of the 1,200, it's sort of an 800 retail floor, 400 back of hat X-Golf, which has the cafe and the bar attached. So they do run golf leagues out of that space early on in the week to try and promote the store for future retail sales. So they do need an after hours point of access, whether it's through the main entrance or a back entrance. But again, it's a big investment for these guys. There's sort of $1.9 million spent on setup. So they're looking for assistance in getting that covered by some of the landlords with some fit-out contribution. But if you've got 1,200 square metres eastern seaboard, these guys are ready to roll out some sites over the next couple of years. So keen to get as many opportunities as they can. So Costy's Seafood. So again, that means Steve's out there looking for sites really, again, up and down the eastern seaboard, New South Wales. Obviously, you've got good representation already, but opportunity for some more sites there. Southeast Queensland and Victoria. So 100 to 150 square metres with his inline store concept. Needs a minimum supermarket turnover of 50 mil. And that also needs to be surrounded with a strong fresh fruit precinct. So good butcher, good fruit veg. Just the key players there. So most people are familiar with the way Steve presents these days. So high quality fit out, good product, good position in the market, particularly New South Wales. So he's inline stores. But next slide, more excitingly, he's developing a kiosk concept. So he's got a vacuum sealing. What do you call it, machine that he's running out of his factory sort of warehouse in Botany, which gives the shelf life of 10 days to the fresh seafood. So with that, he sees an opportunity to set up kiosks. So he's looking initially for 2 sites to really trial it for 6 to 12 months, just to see how it's got, how it's going to go, whether it's got some legs, and how to best run it. So it's only a 20 to 25 square metre kiosk. The cabinetry is lockable, so he doesn't need offsite storage in this case.
Okay.
So it's pretty much a come in, drop it on the floor, and away he goes. So he's looking for 2 short-term deals initially, just to trial it. But once he does that, we feel this is a concept that can really open up and put him into centres that he previously wouldn't have been able to get into. So if you do have something that you're prepared to do a short-term deal on, he's ready to go. In his words, yesterday. So this is something that's ready to roll right now. So he's got the cabinetry set up and ready to roll them out. In terms of, I just saw the message regarding smell. So because if you can see from the screen now, this is how the seafood packed. So it's all vacuum sealed. There is no, there will be no, and he only needs single phase power and 1 drain point. So he's, the smell issue won't be a problem.
Okay, Cam. Yeah, no, good. Thanks, Cam. Yeah, I think, look, guys, as Cam said, this is hot off the press, and Steve is really excited about this, as we are, because we really think there's a good opportunity to roll this out. And whether we do that with 1 or 2 landlords and go bang, remains to be seen. Obviously, the trial needs to happen for him to get some operational things sorted on his end. But certainly the appetite, we think, will be there, and it's we see some really good legs with this one. So excited about this, absolutely. Thanks, Cam. Just pass you across to Jackie Mance now to talk to you about Smoky Sue's.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back for those that were with us on our last class, and welcome to everyone that's new. We've got a new and exciting F&B concept entering Australia, Smoky Sue's. Size requirements, 120 to 200 square metres with some al fresco seating, ELPs, casual dining. The current portfolio at the moment is one which will be opening in Maroubra in New South Wales. At this point, we're going to start in New South Wales, but obviously it will go national, and minimum of 5 years for their leases. So it's an American style barbecue, not 8 hours to cook the meat. This is going to be a 3-hour turnaround with the way their concept works. Liquor license as well is going to be imperative for this brand. So again, 120 to 200 square metres, ELP casual dining. Maroubra will be the first store open. Target market, age 18 to 40, family units, singles, mixed groups. The gender, obviously, the menu will appeal to both men and women and to any income. So we're not looking at, high level income or low level. It will be medium income and above. So any sites you've got, send them through.
That one's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, absolute cracker.
That will go berserk.
Well, just to give the guys a little bit more insight then, Jackie. So the Neutral Bay store that he had, he's closed. This guy's been in the business for a while. He's got a good background here, so he certainly knows what he's about. He felt that although Neutral Bay, the actual asset he was in, was probably a grade C location in his words, and didn't feel it was going to springboard the brand well enough for him. Although he's had absolutely unbelievable interest from even overseas with this, so. It certainly looks promising, and I think the Maroubra deal he did himself, and it looks good. But he's jumped on board with us now, so we'll be interested to see where we can take it. But yeah, to John's point, I think it's a little bit different in the market, and he's got a good background, so I think he'll have a good crack at this one. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jackie. So who we got up next? We got Lee Rubino talking about Majestic Car Wash.
You sure do. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for your time today. Majestic Car Wash currently have 8 sites across Australia and are looking for new opportunities. They have the capability to open another 5 locations before Christmas 2020 and are looking for an additional 12 locations in the 2021 calendar year. Majestic Car Wash require busy regional, sub-regional and larger neighbourhood centres, preferably with undercover parking. So if you have an existing car wash tenancy which is vacated within your portfolio, subject to approved terms, Majestic can open for trade relatively quickly as they don't need to apply for the DA. However, new opportunities require around 6 to 8 months lead time. Majestic require 5-year lease term and sufficient space, around 20 to 30 car spaces, in order to build an office with a small storeroom and sufficient car spaces to house the cars before and after the service. They also require water, drainage and electricity to the site. So if you have any opportunities, please email them and I'll forward them to the relative client managers. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lee. And a big shout out to Mel from Stockland, actually, because Mel passes across to Dev that owns Majestic, and he's been a pleasure to deal with. So yeah, I think he's got some good growth plans going forward. Okay, we'll pass across to Rebecca now.
Hi guys, what we've got today is X Golf, which is basically an entertainment offer, which is state-of-the-art golf simulators. So at the moment, these guys, we've got 11 stores nationally, basically on the East Coast at the moment, between South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland, where our ideal size is 450 to 650 in entertainment precincts, retail parks, somewhere that's got sort of extended trading hours, because we're obviously going to, people are coming after hours, weekends, things like that. We are looking for sites nationally at the moment, and we're looking for leases that are 5 years with some options attached to it as well. With that space requirement we've got there also, we also need a fair height of 3.3 metres as well. We need some toilets. It's a liquor licensed premises as well, so we're going to need the ability to get some toilets in there as well. In terms of rents, they're pretty rent sensitive, so we're looking sort of 50 to 120 grand as a rental, as a gross rental. And in terms of franchise costs, we're looking at sort of 650 to get these things set up. They're about 70 grand per simulator. So we've got some franchisees ready to roll. We've got 4 to 5 ready to roll. And now we're out there looking for sites for these guys. So it's basically, it covers off all things. You can go there you can play in a league there. You can play against your mates. You can have lessons there. And then also you can have your Bucks night there, your birthdays there. They've got all these sort of different sort of packages that cater for all that sort of stuff. So as Cam said before, some of these sit at the back of House of Golf. And then we're also looking for external sites. But parking, visibility, good access, after hours, they're the sort of things that we're after.
And guys, just so you know as well, last time we spoke, I think we mentioned to you we've set up a franchise recruitment business to help obviously the property side and to open stores. So this one particularly, we've signed these guys up, and once we define the growth strategy even tighter than what it is, so it'll have specific shopping centres and geographic locations. We'll be coming and talking to you individually about what we can do to target and to flush out franchisees that are within the primary trade area of these sites. So we'll be in contact probably with you over the next 3 to 4 weeks once we get absolute definition of exactly where we want to go after we do the perfect GapMaps hunting ground report.
Good stuff. Okay, do you want to just jump into maybe just reference Cycle Bar, Becca? I'm sure you got some interest from this first time round.
Yeah, so first time around we had a lot of interest, and I think that was due to the graphics that we had and all the men that were on the call. But anyway, we now have got some more momentum happening with it at the moment. So as you can see, there were some areas of interest in Perth, Melbourne, and Queensland. So they're probably the 3 that have got more momentum at the moment. But and New South Wales will come online pretty shortly as well. So I think it was 150 square metres, weren't they, Keith, again, the size tenancies are after?
Yeah.
And yes, so anything that you've got there, again, these guys are going to need extended trading hours. They're going to have people in before class, before centres open, after hours as well. So you get that full turnaround. So you've probably got them starting at sort of 6, 5:30, 6 in the morning, going through to 8:30 at night. So we need that ability for people to access the premises after hours, good parking, good visibility, those things as well.
Yeah.
Could I just say, I think the first one that's opening up over in Perth, they have a 3-month process to start signing up members. And I think it's something like they've got to get to 350 to be commercial and to break even. And before they even open, I think they're beyond that. So that they heave in the States, these things. So first indications here are that they're going to trade very, very well as well.
Yeah. I think Currambine opens shortly, John. Currambine's not far away from opening, and then Lee's working hard on a deal in Neutral Bay. So I think Beck, and I think I spoke to you about this, once we get these guys up and running and people can see it, I think already this area of interest here is just literally just coming through from the social side. So he's already in talks with people in these areas. So guys, I know we're not being very specific as to, where in Bayside or where in the Sunshine Coast, but as John said, we're working through that real growth strategy with him now because it's starting to build a lot of momentum. So we'll stay very close to you all on this one as soon as we can refine that a bit better. But just needless to say, it's probably going to be something that we want to see growing quite well over the next year or so.
But if you've got sites that you think might be suitable, send them through anyway, because I'm just harvesting them all, putting them aside. So when these things do come up, then we've already got you in the system and we come straight back to you. So
yeah, and as soon as it fits in, we're helping him with the franchise recruitment on this as well. That we'll be talking to you about some strategies to help market and define the franchisees on top of what we're already doing.
Good. Okay, great. Thanks, Beck. Thanks, John. Okay. Well, guys, that's it. I mean, it's short and sweet, I know, but there's certainly some stuff in there that we'd like to think we can get our teeth into. A couple of newbies, again. Smokey Sue's is new. Ex-golf, I think, is going to be something that I think once we get that right location, I think that will drive well. Although it's expensive, again, some serious interest in that brand. Majestic Car Wash, he's ready to go this year, as Lee already mentioned. So really keen to get some stuff happening there. And House of Golf, if we can get that right size requirement. Again, another business that has just, through this pandemic, has just thrived and just really ready to kick on and extend the portfolio. So there's a mixed bag out there, and we'd love to just contact the client managers directly or give them a call today, whatever suits you, and then we'll keep adding to this as we run. And if you need any more insight and more detail, we'll be able to do that more so on a one-on-one basis. So John, did you want to maybe just finish on that piece around the international franchise, just to give the guys a little bit of an insight into what we're working on also?
So yeah, there's a couple of things. We've just set up a new business, and we're partnered with a chap called Stanley Cobol, has been bringing out businesses from the US and Europe over the last 30 years. So we've just set up BDC International Partners, and his focus is going to be going over to, obviously, to the States. He's heavily connected over there, and be talking to franchisors and retailers, brick and mortar retailers, to bring them over to the States. We're working on setting up a fund with some investors in the WA area who will assist us in bringing those guys out, and maybe even setting them up under the BDC Partners banner with a couple of other local partners is the plan. So that's pretty exciting, because I think you would all agree that a lot of our retailers are reasonably stale, and we need some fresh blood. So I think it's really critical that we are out there and shaking the tree to find some people that are prepared to travel, and prepared to come into the marketplace. So we're pretty excited about that. We also, from a BDC Partners point of view, particularly on the franchise recruitment side, we've got an open forum next week, next Wednesday, I think it is, with franchisors. So we've thrown it out to all franchisors to come in and have a chat. We've got Mary Aldred, who's the CEO of Franchise Council of Australia, who will be speaking and talking about the market and the road forward. And then our chairman, Bruce Bilson, who I mentioned to you guys, I think on the last call, he was the small business minister, and he was also the previous chairman of the Franchise Council of Australia. So he's our chairman of BDC Partners, and where he'll be speaking at that event. And we will also be launching on that day. It's a psychological profiling tool that we've signed up out of the States called Zoracle. And what that does is we work with the franchisors, the ones that we've signed up to. They do a psychological analysis of themselves and their senior management team, and then of all their franchisees, so within the network. And it gives them a benchmark to see which ones are performing well, to see what are the indicators and key critical factors that make a good franchisee. So where there's a couple of other things attached to that, with some websites that we're doing that we are setting up, in the throes of setting up. But the plan is to flush out get all the franchisors ready to start opening, certainly from a brick and mortar side, opening stores, but making sure they're ready for that. But making sure that the franchisees, as we talked about last time, Australia is on the move. You know, everything that we chat about on the last call, with all the business brokers are inundated at the moment. The removalists are absolutely inundated at the moment with inquiries. A lot of people moving to get out of Victoria. I don't know why. It's such a beautiful place. But they're all going up to Queensland. Don't laugh, Pat. So I'm going to be one of them too in a minute. But so they're all these patterns that are saying that we're calling it the Great COVID migration. Everyone's moving. Everyone's looking for different jobs. A lot of people are forced to look for different jobs. So we've got to make sure that the industry is ready to jump on top of that. And part of the seminar next week or the open forum is to chat to make sure that these people are ready. They've got their growth strategies ready. They've got their systems ready. And with this psychological profiling tool, making sure that the people are joining their networks are the right people, because it has the potential to go to shit, to be blunt, if people are getting matched up with the wrong businesses. So Bruce is also working on the government side. The government are doing a huge amount of research and focus groups. I know Scott Morrison last week, what day is it today? So last Thursday, met with a lot of retailers, interviewing them to talk about how we can get the industry going as we're coming out of this. What are going to be the key points that they've got to invest in, and where they've got to put their money to get retail going again. So Bruce has been heavily involved in that. I know he's put submissions into other parts of government. So that's all all pretty cool. Like our focus is to make sure, and we've got a couple of other announcements coming up in the next week or two, that you guys are giving us all the vacancies that are out there so we can match up with all of our clients and make sure we're doing deals, and that we're communicating properly between the landlord, people like us, and obviously the retailers. So we catch up every month with all the retailers as well, and we have a chat about what's going on out there, what's working, what's not, what the direction is, etc., etc. So that's what we're working on behind the scenes. And as I said at the start, there's certainly the international side I'm excited by, to see. We've got to start that process. I don't know when they'll actually let international people into the country again, but we've got to start that somehow and start lining up all the opportunities. So, so that's about it, Keith.
Okay, John, thanks for that. Sorry, I did have a wry smile there when Jeremy said, will John Sully get a psychological profile, or is the damage already done?
I did mine.
Guys, okay, look at, thanks again. I mean, look, certainly what you're going to get on this call, if anything, is going to be positivity about the industry, okay? We're pretty much all, when I mentioned it on the first call, I'll say it again, it's all about doing deals. That's what it's about. So everything we're doing in the background is towards doing deals. And, you know, we're trying to obviously do as much as we can in that respect. And the partner side and the franchising side will go a ways to help us all. So listen, really appreciate your time this morning. It's 11:47, so it's been about 45 minutes. It's been good to catch up. You'll get that presentation from GapMaps sent out today. If you have any questions, please come back. But more importantly, have a look at those requests. Have a look at who's added to the list of 5 last week, and we've got 10 now active. And let's see if we can get some more deals done over the next 4 weeks. So,
and if you can I just say, if you have any suggestions of any retailers that you've seen out there that need a bit of help to grow, or if they had a bit of infrastructure around them, or they need some infrastructure around them, please introduce us, let us know so we can work with these guys. Apart from Cameron Roebuck asking for In-N-Out Burger in WA, thanks for the text, mate. Any suggestions from over there, let us know, or anywhere.
Yeah. And in general, I'll finish on this. In general, any feedback about this call, or how you'd like to see this evolve or change, or if there's anything that we're not covering off, you know, if we're not giving enough detail on the criteria for what we're looking at, and we're talking too much about the fluffy stuff, just please give me the feedback, and so we can improve it and make sure everybody's getting something out of it. So with that, I'll say Slán Lat, which is goodbye for Irish, and we'll see you all again next month.